All right, welcome to day 39. Let's take a look at your SAT questions first. The first one, if the quantity z plus 2 divided by 5 is 2, what does the quantity z plus 2 divided by the quantity z minus 6 equal? For the first one, for the first equation, if you solve for z, you'll get z equals 8. You can plug it back into the second one, and you'll have that the quantity equals 5. Okay, here's another shape, and it asks you to find the sum of x and y. Be careful, it doesn't ask you to find x or y individually, it just asks you to find the sum. And if you're ever stuck on a problem like this, just go ahead and draw yourself some triangles. And here we have 4 triangles. We know that the sum of each of these triangles, the angles have to measure 180, so 4 times 180 is 720. That means all the interior angles of the shape will equal 720. And if you divide your known angles by, subtract your known angles from 720, you'll have that x plus y has to equal 220 degrees. The third one, if the absolute value of 2r minus 2 equals 8 and the absolute value of negative 3r plus 2 equals 11, then what is the value of r? For the first equation, remember when you have absolute values, you have to set up 2 equations. Notice inside the parentheses, or inside the absolute value signs, that expression does not change. Just your answer changes. First it's positive and then it's negative. And if you go ahead and solve for r for both of them, you'll have r equals 5 or r equals negative 3. Those are your 2 possible answers for the first part. Let's look for 2 possible answers of the second part. And we'll see that again you have to divide it into 2 equations. Again, inside the absolute value sign, the negative 3r plus 2 does not change in either expression. When you solve it, you'll have r equals negative 3 and r equals 13/3. So obviously the answer has to be negative 3. Okay, for today's lessons, I'm going to give you some end behaviors, and you have to write a possible equation. So here's what I look at. The first end behavior, when x approaches negative infinity, then the y approaches negative 4. And when x approaches positive infinity, y approaches negative 4. So y is converging to negative 4. Somewhere where y equals negative 4. So I'm just going to draw this dashed line in. This is going to be one of my asymptotes when y equals negative 4. The second 2 expressions, x is approaching 5 from the positive side, your y values are approaching infinity, and x is approaching 5 from the negative side, your y's are approaching infinity. So obviously something's happening where x equals 5, so let's go ahead and draw in another asymptote there. And now all we have to do is guess and check. Where x approaches infinity, y is approaching negative 4, and then as it gets closer and closer to 5, it goes to infinity, and same with the other side. Once you have a possible equation drawn in, go back and double check, do the end behaviors of the function you just drew in, the same as the ones that are listed, and in this case they are. So what function has this shape and how has it been transformed? Well, it has been shifted over to the right 5 and down 4, and the function is 1 over x squared, the parent function. Shifted over to the right 5 and down 4. Okay, let's try the next one. Notice that the end behaviors are a little bit out of order. So as x approaches infinity, y is approaching 7, and then we have to go down to the last one. As x approaches negative infinity, y is approaching 7. So again, something's happening at 7. I went too far ahead. And also at 8, when x is approaching 8 from the negative side, and when x is approaching 8 from the positive side. Notice your 2 extremes, from as x approaches infinity and negative infinity, it converges to 7. The 2 middle ones, when x approaches 8 from the negative side and from the positive side, will kind of dictate what this function looks like. And it will look like this. Again, once you draw your function, go back and check the end behaviors, make sure they match up. Now notice this has been shifted over to the right 8 and up 7, so make sure your transformation of 1 over x to the third reflects that. Okay, here are 2 more for you to try. Put the video on pause and then double check them when you have a chance, when you get finished with it. Okay, now you should be able to finish the rest of the packet.